Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Flying Over 50 at Any Age. I'm Cyrus Webb, joined by my co-host, celebrity publicist, and best-selling author, Makeda Smith. Glad you guys can join us on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and on X. Going to bring in our friends over on Instagram so they can be part of our show for today. And last but certainly not least, going to connect with our friends over on Amazon, where we're celebrating Prime Days this week. And I hope you guys have found some great deals and also picked up some great books. So it's a great opportunity for you, if you've not got Makeda's book, to go ahead and do that. And we're now live on Amazon Live with Flying Over 50 at Any Age with Makeda Smith and myself. The series is based on her book. You guys can see on Amazon, either here in this corner or down below. It's called Flying Over 50 at Any Age. Now, it is a great thing for you guys to be able to go through your month. We've been going week by week through Makeda's book. So in day 24 of her book, it is week 24 of our series. We're going to be talking about a really important topic for us for today. Makeda, how you doing?
I'm fine, Cyrus. How are you?
I'm doing amazing. Thank you for asking. Excited about this show. I was telling Makeda what a good one this is, and she says I say that every week. But I told her it's good every week. I can't help that. Nico, too good. Hello to you over there on IG. My friend, going to be able to see you.
Hey.
Glad you could be able to join us. So before we get into it, Makeda, let me
Mhm.
tell you why I'm excited about our audience being a
Okay.
part of this today. Because a lot of times, and I'm going to be making an announcement later on this month about my show, Conversations. A lot of people don't
Mhm.
know how that name came about. We get to find out in this particular week how Flying Over 50 came about. So I want to ask you, before we read it and go into
Uh-huh.
it, what has it been like for you to see how for decades people only knew Makeda Smith as a celebrity publicist? What has it been like for you now in this new phase to be an influencer yourself and to have your own brand?
Um, it's you ask these insightful questions. I have to pause, gather my brain and my
Oh
thoughts.
boy.
What is it like? I have to say, it has been a very interesting transition because being a publicist was always being behind the scenes
Mm-hmm.
and promoting my clients and putting them to the forefront and being able to boss them around and tell them what they need to do.
Mm-hmm.
But then once I became, sort of like a performance artist, influencer, pole dancer, it, I found myself being pushed to the forefront as the talent.
Yeah.
And I had to tell myself what to do, like PR wise, which I wasn't really, putting yourself to the front and you doing the interviews. I was always the one behind the scenes. And what you'll kind of find out, I think, in this chapter is it was my daughters who I had trained as mini publicists
Hmm.
who kind of pushed me to the forefront and they were telling me what to do. Like, mom, you need to do this, mom, you need to do that. So it's been an interesting transition.
Yeah. It kind of, when you were talking, Makeda, I thought about that saying. I'll paraphrase it, where it says, "Doctors make the worst patients," because
Oh,
they're good at being able to help other people, but they're not always good at taking their own medicine and
that's
do
that's a good analogy. Yeah,
yeah.
that's a perfect analogy.
And I love the fact that as our audience will see in this message, you kind of went through that yourself of being
Yeah,
told things from your children, as you were talking about, things that you would be saying to your clients, to
exactly.
your clients as well.
It,
So that brings up another question before we get
uh-huh.
into our message, and that is, because now you've added another layer to that, Makeda Smith. Now you are a celebrity publicist, you're an influencer, and an Amazon best-selling author. So what has that part been like for you? I mean, it's one thing to be known in the pole community and what you've done there and get attention for that. What's it like for you now to be in this new community as an author and to be recognized for that?
Let me think. With these questions. You know what? It has all been really interesting. I have to really say that everything is kind of meshing together
Mm-hmm.
and I'm really getting into more of the flow of it
Mm-hmm.
because I think a lot of times as we take on new roles, we inadvertently suffer from imposter syndrome, which I know I've had forever.
Mhm.
Like you're in the forefront doing these things, but you're not really fully owning or embracing what you're doing, or you're second guessing and questioning what you're doing.
Mhm.
And I think I'm finally at a point where I no longer have imposter syndrome. And when it does sneak up upon me, I recognize it and I can shoo it away. But I'm
Mm.
really starting to own and embrace all my titles. Like the publicity title, public relations title, I can easily own that. But stepping to the forefront as an author, as a performance artist, a pole artist, athlete, those are things. It's like, oh well, maybe I should step back a little. But now I'm like in it to win it.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
All
I would love to share the story, Makeda, when I was talking to you about the series, and because that's another layer of now
yeah.
what you've done this year, adding podcast host.
Oh, I
Uh,
know, right? I fought you tooth and nail.
she did. She fought. She fought me, even though it was in my mind, it was really her idea. In my mind now,
In your mind, in your
yeah,
web, in your
yeah.
mind,
Look, in my mind,
in
this
your
was something
mind.
we were doing together. And then I remember right before we started, Makita, you sent me this email. You remember this?
What?
And you were talking about, you sure are going to do it every week? You sure people are going to be tuned in? And I'm like,
I was trying to get out of this. Oh my Lord. I was like,
I said, let
what?
me call her. And I rarely just call people. But I said, let me call her. And that's when you were talking about the imposter syndrome. So the reason why I'm bringing that up is because of where you were before we started this series.
That's
And now
true.
you are 24 weeks later. How do you feel differently about it now?
Well, I really have to say this, Cyrus, and I almost hate to give you this credit because then you're gonna be making me do some do some other stuff that I probably gonna fight you and don't want to do. But you making me do this podcast, well, it started with the book, but the podcast was really like the icing on the cake,
Mm,
because you making me commit and show up every week, and be on camera and go live, which are things I have never really done at all,
mhm,
and talking about myself and engaging. It's really helped put the icing on the cake, and it's really made everything gel together, because on it's on one level I've had to, I don't want to cuss on your show, but I've had to own
yeah.
I've had to own my stuff, like
Mhm,
you really have to own your stuff.
yeah.
And then just the repetition of it puts you in a comfort zone of it, and it helps you ease into it and flow into it. And
Mhm,
it's really it's really made everything come together, and it's really helped kick my imposter syndrome to the side.
mhm.
And in the beginning, you're right. I was like, oh my God, every week, like, this is crazy. And I can't be on camera every week. And like, what are we going to talk about? Nobody's going to listen. And this is like the craziest idea that somebody's ever presented to me. Why am I agreeing? And I was
Yeah.
like, Cyrus has lost his mind.
Well, I'm not going to debate that last part. I probably have lost my mind, but it worked out. Melissa says in his mind.
In
Melissa,
his mind, thank you, Melissa. In his mind, in his web, he weaves in his mind.
but let me tell you how this all comes together before, which is why I get excited about these weeks. You know what you just described, Makita?
I don't know. What did I just
When you wrote in the book 2 weeks ago about when you started doing pole, and you
Uh-huh.
happen to look in the mirror and see the change.
Oh,
That's
you see
exactly
this.
what you've experienced here with this podcast. In the
Yeah, that's true.
beginning, you didn't think it was something, and now look at you. Now you can see the result of it.
Yeah, that's so true. You know what? Even I know this is a result of my podcast. I get a lot of, well, I'm gonna say a lot, but I get several sponsors who, hit me to do IG reels for them.
Hmm.
And it's now I can like pick up something and do an IG reel in like one or two takes. And then I know it's because I've been doing this with you every week. So it makes you comfortable on camera. It makes
Mm.
you more fluid in your conversation. I really hate to give you all these props because I know you're gonna have some more stuff for me to do next. So we can stop because you're gonna
But
come up with something else. So we need to do this,
no,
Makeda. We
no,
need
now,
that.
Makita, do you really think I would do that?
Yes, I do.
Well, you're probably right, but we'll go ahead and get into the message. So, if you don't have your copy of Makita's book, you all have to pick up "Flying Over 50 in the Age." This chapter is so important. So I want you guys to really get this. I'm going to pull it up on the screen as we go into week number 24 so you can see how this Flying Over 50 brand even came about. The topic is following your passion will get you noticed. In 2015, after I got comfortable in my new pole skin and started posting across the various social media platforms, I got a call from an editor at a popular pole magazine to be a guest blogger, Pole World News. I was beyond humbled and flattered to be asked. As a publicist, I knew that this request would be the start of a new level of recognition for my new hobby. I also knew that the attention meant I could no longer play small. Writing for a pole world led to the creation of my brand, Flying Over 50. My oldest daughter had advised me to start an official blog and to create a website. Honestly, I was overwhelmed. My daughter sounded to me how I sound as a publicist when I'm giving my clients the tools to branding, creating more paths for media recognition, and increasing their fan base. The only problem was that for me as a publicist and being behind the scenes, I was now being officially moved to the front of the scene. It was all very disconcerting and took some introspection and adjusting. I remember I was going to call my blog Over 50 and on a Pole or something like that. It was my youngest daughter who casually said to me, "Mom, that will never work and it sounds old. Why don't you just call it Flying Over 50?" What genius from the mouths of babes. And the rest, as they say, was a lot of hard work and history as Flying Over 50 came into fruition. When we buckle down and dive into our passion, others take notice as you create a magnetic energy field around you. I was polling to save my life. The athletic training and dance engagement kept me from sinking into a debilitating depression. Becoming an influencer and pole role model was never my intention or goal. When it started happening as a natural progression, I had to lift my wings and follow the direction that the wind was blowing. What fulfills you? Are you focused on it? Or is it your focus on gaining more followers, attracting more attention, securing some level of fame? Are you distracted by your personal practice as a means to an end, as opposed to your personal practice being the ongoing journey? And then we have the message there, you never know whom you are healing. So, Makeda, let's talk about this. There are a lot of different layers to this message here. Again, you were just doing the work. That's what I call it. You were just
Mhm.
doing the work. What was it like for you to reflect on getting that offer from the magazine?
Yeah, rereading this whole chapter just takes me back. I have to catch my brain. It takes me back because in the beginning, I was really just trying not to be depressed every day.
Mm-hmm.
And I was really just focused on learning my pole tricks, trying not to ache every day, and just like trying to stay alive, trying to keep my energy up to stay alive. So it was never an intention of like it was never any plan. It was just day to day, day to day, day to day, in the moment, day to day. It wasn't like, oh, we're gonna do this with pole. Like when my daughter said create a website and a blog, I was like, what the hell? So that was never my intention. It was just I was just in it.
Mm-hmm.
And so as things started happening, I remember it was really disconcerting. It takes me to what you said, doctors make the worst patients,
Mm-hmm.
because maybe it's probably the same thing. Publicists make the worst clients. It was so disconcerting, and I fought it tooth and nail.
Mm-hmm.
And I literally felt bad for all my clients. said, "Oh my God, how my clients are telling me how my daughters are bossing me around and telling me what I need to do and da 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 and rattling off stuff." I said, "That's
Yeah.
how I do my clients." I said, "Oh my God, I'm really a bee." And
Wow.
this is a lot of work, and this is a lot of when you're just in your craft, and
Hmm.
then you've got more stuff to do. It's really overwhelming. I was so overwhelmed. I probably cried a few times. Like, what have I gotten myself into? I
Wow.
remember my first, the first blog I set up in the website. I think I built that first website myself. Oh my God, I was up every night till like 4 or 5 in the morning. I was like,
Mhm.
oh my God,
Wow.
this
Wow.
is this is way too much. I really prefer being behind the scenes and telling everybody what they need to do.
Right. Right.
So it was really transitional.
Yeah. Now, let me tell you what's so special about us having this conversation, though, Makeda.
Yes, Cyrus.
2015, that was literally a decade ago.
I
And now
know.
look at what Flying Over 50 has done.
I
What was
know.
it like for you when you were prepping for today to think about that was a decade ago when you started this path and where it is today? Because you've been nationally, for those who don't know, nationally and internationally recognized now.
I
So that
know.
that
It's
that
crazy.
first thing in 2015 was just the beginning. What has it been like for you to see what has happened with Flying Over 50 since then?
It's really, you know what? Like the thing I have to come back to is like metaphysically, I was really on my deathbed back then because I had reached a certain peak in my career, and then it was just all like whoop taken away.
Hmm.
And I was really on my deathbed and my metaphysical deathbed. And so it's just really something for me today to remember where I was and to be at such a level of peace right now that like back then I just couldn't even imagine it. I it was just unimaginable.
Hmm.
So it's really been a process, and it's like I just really want people to know, and I know people say this all the time, but when you're going through something, you really can get through it if you stick with it. Like you really can get through it. Because back then I knew that I could get through it,
Yeah.
but it was just like I probably couldn't visualize what the outcome could be. I just had to every day be like, we're going to get through it. We're going to get through it. And then you have to be open to everything that starts to come to you as you're going through it. So
Right.
it really is a journey and it really is a process.
And then, too, wouldn't you agree? Now, this is what I took away from reading this.
Hmm.
You have to be open to listening
Yeah.
because if you had not listened to your daughter, who knows what it would have been called? You know what
Lord.
I'm saying? So, what was that like for you? That lesson to think about that, even though it may not have been what you wanted to hear, right? About the blog, about the website, about the name, about what's come from it.
My oldest daughter used to be like, Mom, you need this, you need to do that, da, da, da. And everything she was telling me was what I tell my clients. And I know she had watched me as a publicist, so she
Right.
and she has her own businesses, so she knows.
Hmm.
But I used to get off the phone with her and be like, who have I raised?
Right.
Like she is giving me a headache. She is like, have you done your blog? Have you done this? Have you set up that? Like, but it was so important for her to coach me along because, like you said, doctors are the worst clients.
Hmm.
I couldn't do it for myself. So it was really important. And then my youngest daughter, she just flippantly said, "Why don't you call it Flying Over 50?" She wasn't even like, "Let me brainstorm." She was like, "Mom, just call it Flying Over 50." I was like, "What? Where'd you come up with that? That's like brilliant. That's
Yeah.
amazing." She was
Yeah.
just like, "Oh, whatever." And she just went on about whatever she was doing. I was like, it was like if I had sat down and tried to figure that out, this was before Chat GPT. I
Mhm.
was like, oh my gosh. Like, so their input, even though they may not know it, but their input really was like lifesavers for me because I couldn't navigate everything myself. So it is important when you're in a really low space and help is being sent your way, you do have to listen and you do have to embrace. And it goes back to an earlier chapter where I said you have to see the signs because there are always signs around us.
Yeah, such a great point. Michael Martin, hello to you over there on IG. Good to see you. I want to reset real quick, Makeda, and say for those who are just tuning in, welcome. You all are watching Flying Over 50 at Any Age on Amazon Live, but we're simulcasting this for Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and X, as well as on Instagram. We're speaking to my co-host, Makeda Smith, who's a celebrity publicist, Amazon best-selling author as well. We're talking with her not only about this particular message of the book, which I think is so important. Following your passion will get you noticed, but also what it's been like for her to see what that's been like for her as she's experienced it. The last thing I want to talk to you about, Makeda, is an important message, and you end it with this, and it goes to motive. You know, there are some people who want to be famous just to be famous.
Mm-hmm.
Everything they do is about that. It's not about service. It's not about intention. You address that in this particular message, and I love this. You say, "What fulfills you? Are you focused on it, or is your focus on gaining more followers, attracting more attention, securing some level of fame?" What is it that's helped you stay focused on your why along the way, and why is that important for the audience as well?
Well, that particular passage makes me think about my work as a publicist.
Hmm.
I've had clients come to me, I've been doing this for like almost 40 years.
Hmm.
And in the course of 40 years, you get some clients that come in front of you and they're like, I want to be on Oprah. I want to be on this. I want to be on the cover of that, and it's like their intention is, like you said, the fame. And
Hmm.
I usually try to refocus them and tell them all that will come to you that is for you if you stay committed and focused on your passion, your talent, your art. You really, when you are centered in your craft, you create an energy field of attracting everything to you,
Hmm.
organically attracting everything to you. But when you're focused on like the outside things, like how many followers, how much fame, it's you're really misdirecting energy. And I have to say that over the course of doing publicity for tons and tons of talent, the people who have stayed committed to their talent and their craft are still here
Hmm.
and still flourishing. The people who were in it for like the quick fame are no longer around.
Yeah, yeah. Which also says a lot about you, as we talk about in this message. Here you are a decade later with this new brand, Flying
Yeah,
Over 50, still flourishing. And I think when I read that at the end, I thought that was so important because we do live in a world where everyone wants this dopamine hit, right? They want
yeah,
this quick
yeah,
attention, and instead of thinking about who they're serving or who they can help, it's all about what they can get from it. And so I
yeah.
think that's such a great message. Is that kind of the big takeaway for you as you think about our audience, Makeda? That again, the topic "Following Your Passion Will Get You Noticed." Is that one of the big takeaways you hope they take away from this?
Yeah, I think following your passion will carry you to where you ultimately want to be. Yeah, that's what I would have to say, Cyrus.
Well, no, and it's right, and you're living proof of that. You know, you're
Yeah,
living proof of it, and I think it's a great reminder for all of us. So I think it's great to have that self reflection too for our audience out there. That maybe if things aren't happening the way that you want them, maybe
that's
making sure you have not lost your way.
yeah, the
And
refocus.
Yeah, I mean, because it can definitely happen to any of us. Again, everyone, it's week number 24 of our series here on Amazon Live, Flying Over 50 in the Age. The message today, again, is day 24. Following your passion will get you noticed. For those who have not gotten your copy of Makeda's book, you can get it here on Amazon. You can get the paperback here. I'm going to highlight for you guys for $9.99, or you can get the Kindle edition there for $5.99. For those tuning in on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube, you'll find the link to Amazon to get your copy of the book there. Makeda, another great show. How can our audience stay connected with you?
I'm my websites and my Instagrams are Flying Over 50 and the Makeda Method. My oldest daughter named my new brand the Makeda Method, and my youngest daughter named it Flying Over 50. So they both contributed.
Love it. Love it. Great job. Well, we're so glad that they did, and so glad that their mother was a good client and listened.
Yes, indeed.
It's
I
like
know
I
you
try
set
to be
me
a
up.
good
You
client.
set me up, Cyrus.
What do you mean? What? Makeda,
Feel
don't
your
be
brain.
thinking like
You're
that.
setting me up.
Don't be thinking like that, Makeda. Makeda, another great show. Looking forward to next week.
All right. Thank you, Cyrus. Thank you, everyone who tuned in.
Yeah,
Bless
thank you
you.
all so much for joining us for Flying Over 50 at any age. Week number 25 is next week. So if you've missed any of the shows, make sure you guys go back, enjoy those. Until next time, you all make it a great one. We'll talk to you soon. Take care.
Bye.